Right. I mean, right. Okay, but it's like if this is like part two of my question, but that's just it. There's a what with like on this like the see like what it is there's a lot of stuff now. They're going over like what the you know revisiting the Kennedy assassination, like what different things. Um, and they had that guy like Mark Lane on who wrote a book about it, and then there was like the first person to write a book that like started off the big like conspiracy theory like industry on that topic. Right, but the things I'm like, why persons like weren't like we're interested in like looking into any of that is because of like right, you see a lot of like they're like they bring out like scientists to like look at or like people who like examine the bullets and everything or what was the different like did this guy Oswald had like a motivation or whatever, that wouldn't be like given if you're like looking at it in economic terms, like why is it like right, like what would be they don't ask like sort of the right questions if you wanted to look into such a thing would be like the thing. It's like they like sort of like intricate things about like the bullet and all that type of stuff. But it even if that didn't, even if you weren't even if you weren't interested in looking into like things about the Kennedy assassination, like what would be an intelligent question, like a question to ask was what ran through our mind. The whole thing is whoa. Right, it's like okay, right. What would be an intelligent question to ask? Like, but it's like a much sort of simpler question, right? Which is like the people, people do say like that or like I don't know my history that well, but did like Kennedy was going to like pull us out of Vietnam is like part of the thing that like and then like the war escalated after his death. The thing is like in economic terms the cost of the Vietnam War is what ultimately, like because of the cost of the thing, like the hold on. Right, which is why Richard Nixon ended up sort of essentially ending the economic part of the Bretton Woods agreement, which is the removal of the regulation on currencies and capital controls. That was like done because the cost of the Vietnam War, because we stayed in the war, became so high. Once that happened, we went to a floating exchange rate. That's when what's sometimes called like the inter-alpha banking network formed, because you could now, if the value was going to float and the currencies weren't pegged to each other, they could now, those banks of that size, like based in places like London and Scotland, could trade blocks of currency. And it's the 3 trillion. Ever since then, it's the $3 trillion a day flipping up and back between currency markets, which is driving the society into a low wage, low growth equilibrium, which is why and preventing like the next round of like production and what would you could call like industrialization, but it doesn't look the same. It would be the green technology, for example. Right, I mean that would be the question to ask, because he was going to pull us out of Vietnam, and like and afterwards the escalation of the war and the cost of that is what caused the dismantling of the Bretton Woods system, which is why there's these blocks. Why we live under threat of capital flight from like British banks. So they sort of like are now deindustrializing the country and preventing, like, that's why there's no green technology never comes and wouldn't, because like we'd be punished with flight of capital. That's why like the LaRouche movement is calling for a new Bretton Woods. We imagine like that's blocked by like British banks. That would be the kind of thing you'd look into if you were interested in like things that what would be the reason and what changed after Kennedy's assassination as it relates to like our principal economic enemy, Great Britain. That's that's sort of like that's the question to ask, would be the thing. It sort of like prompted me to ask you.